God transforms struggle into purpose in ways that often escape our understanding while we are in the midst of the battle. When hardship presses in on every side, when life seems to unravel and the path ahead grows dim, it can feel as though the struggle has no meaning and no end. Yet, in the unseen realm of God's work, nothing is wasted. Every difficulty, every moment of pain, every season of uncertainty can become material in God's hands, shaped into something that reveals His wisdom, His love, and His intention for our lives. What feels like a burden can become the seed of future strength, and what feels like an obstacle can become the very tool He uses to guide us into the purpose He has already prepared. There are moments when struggle becomes the teacher we never asked for but desperately need. It exposes the fragile parts of us that comfort alone cannot reveal. In struggle, pride is softened, dependence on God is deepened, and patience is cultivated. Many times, purpose is discovered not on the mountaintop, but in the valley, where our illusions of control fade and our cry to God becomes sincere. It is often in that vulnerable place that clarity begins to form, a clarity about who God is, about who we are, and about the direction our lives are meant to take. Struggles become mirrors that show us our character, our values, and our deepest longings. And through that revelation, God begins reshaping our path. When God transforms struggle into purpose, He does not do it by removing us from difficulty instantly. Instead, He walks with us through it. His presence becomes the steadying anchor that holds us while everything else shifts. The purpose He forms is not only about the outcome, but about the person we become in the process. Strength is built in the tension between what we face and how we respond through faith. Endurance is built when we keep moving forward despite not having all the answers. Compassion grows when we feel the weight of pain ourselves and later recognize it in someone else. These inner changes are as much a part of our purpose as any outward accomplishment. Sometimes the transformation of struggle into purpose is seen through the doors that hardship forces open. A setback may redirect a life that was moving in the wrong direction. A closed opportunity may save us from something we were never meant to pursue. A painful loss may lead us to a place of growth that comfort could never produce. In these moments, God is not withholding good from us. He is preparing us for a good that is better than the one we imagined. What feels like disruption can be divine redirection, shaping our steps with greater precision than our own plans ever could. There are also times when God uses our struggles to prepare us for the very purpose He has long intended. Many individuals discover their calling or deepest passion through the season they once tried to escape. A person who battles illness may later become a source of courage to others facing the same valley. Someone who endured financial hardship may develop the wisdom and empathy to guide others towards stability. A person who felt isolated may become a voice of comfort and belonging for those who feel unseen. The struggle becomes the foundation for influence, and the wounds become the place where light shines through to others. God transforms struggle into purpose by reminding us that our lives are part of a larger story than the moment we are in. What we see as fragments, He sees as threads in a tapestry that is still unfolding. Every challenge contains a possibility that may not yet be visible. When the weight of the struggle feels overwhelming, God is still shaping the outcome. He is crafting resilience, building faith, stretching trust, and forming a capacity within us that we may not recognize until much later. The purpose He brings forth often becomes clearer in hindsight when we look back and see how the pieces fit together with precision we could not have orchestrated. There is also a quiet transformation that occurs when struggle pushes us closer to God. In desperation, we pray differently. We seek differently, we listen with more sincerity, and in those moments of genuine seeking, God reveals aspects of His character that comfort alone could not show us. Struggle becomes a place of encounter, where God meets us with guidance, strength, and assurance. Through that deepened relationship, our purpose becomes more aligned with His heart, and our steps become more anchored in His direction. God transforms struggle into purpose through the internal shift that happens when we realize we are not defined by what we face, but by how God works within us as we face it. Struggle may bend us, but it does not break us when God is present. It molds us, refines us, and equips us in ways that prepare us for the next chapter. The purpose birthed from struggle carries a depth and authenticity that cannot be manufactured by ease, and it becomes part of the story God writes in and through our lives. Your trials are not your destiny, because the difficulties you face today do not have the authority to define the rest of your life. Every person encounters seasons that feel overwhelming, confusing, or painful. Yet these moments do not have the final say. Trials may shape your path for a time, but they do not determine where you ultimately end up. They are temporary conditions, not permanent identities. Even when the struggle feels constant, the truth remains that circumstances shift, seasons change, and God continues working in ways that are not always visible. A trial may delay your progress, but it cannot cancel your purpose. It may cloud your vision, but it cannot erase God's plan for your life. What you face now is not who you are and not where you are destined to stay. There are times when trials appear so heavy that they convince you nothing will ever change. You may feel stuck in a pattern of disappointment or trapped in a situation that seems unmovable. Yet even in those moments, your destiny remains anchored in something deeper than your present reality. Trials can speak loudly, but they cannot speak truth about your future. They may tell you that you are finished, but God says you are being prepared. They may tell you that your story has reached a dead end, but God quietly continues writing chapters you cannot yet see. Trials are interruptions, not conclusions, and they serve a purpose that becomes clearer as time passes. Some trials reveal strengths you did not know you possessed. When you walk through fire and discover you are still standing, it becomes evidence that your destiny is stronger than the flames. When you face storms that threaten to break you, yet your faith remains, it is proof that something greater is sustaining you. These experiences show that your identity is not built on frailty, but on resilience given by God. Trials expose weakness, yes, but they also uncover hidden reserves of endurance, courage, and determination. Through them, you learn that you are capable of more than you realized, and this knowledge propels you toward the future God designed. Your trials are not your destiny because they often function as catalysts for transformation. They force you to grow in areas you might otherwise resist. They push you to confront parts of your life that need refinement. They spark change, growth, and renewal. Many people only discover their purpose after walking through a season they never expected. A trial may push you to make decisions that lead to new opportunities. It may compel you to release what was never meant to stay. It may reveal relationships that needed to change or paths that no longer aligned with your calling. Without the trial, you might have remained in a place too small for the destiny ahead. Trials also have a way of expanding your compassion. When you suffer, you learn to see others with a tenderness that did not exist before. You recognize pain in people you used to overlook. You listen more carefully, speak more gently, and offer comfort with sincerity. This depth of empathy becomes a powerful part of your destiny because it shapes the way you impact others. Often, your greatest effectiveness in life comes from the very places where you once struggled. What you endured becomes the language that allows you to reach someone else who is hurting. Trials do not merely teach you. They prepare you to become a guide, a helper, a source of strength for others. Your trials are not your destiny because God uses them to reposition you. What seems like a setback may actually be a detour leading to something better. A closed door may protect you from a future that would have harmed you. A disappointment may redirect you to a path that aligns more closely with your purpose. Destiny is rarely a straight line. It twists, turns, pauses, and accelerates in ways you do not expect. Trials often provide the turning points. They break routines that were holding you back. They disrupt comfort zones that were limiting your potential. They shake loose attachments that were unhealthy. In this disruption, God ushers you into the next step of your journey. Another reason trials cannot define your destiny is that they are limited in power. They can influence how you feel, but they cannot determine who you become unless you allow them to. Destiny is shaped by your decisions, your faith, your perseverance, and the direction God sets before you. Trials can pressure you, but they cannot defeat you without your consent. They can wound you, but they cannot destroy the purpose placed within you. Destiny is not fragile. It is rooted in something eternal, unshakable, and beyond the reach of temporary hardship. Your trials are not your destiny because destiny is woven by God, not dictated by circumstance. Even when life becomes unpredictable, God's plan remains steady. Even when you feel lost, God knows exactly where you are. Even when trials feel endless, they serve only a season. The future he has prepared is not canceled by struggle, but often clarified through it. Destiny is shaped by purpose, not by pain, and your trials are stepping stones, not final destinations. Surrender opens the door to break through because true transformation begins when you release the tight grip on your own strength and allow God to step into the deepest places of your life. Many people fight their battles with clenched fists, determined to control every outcome, striving to push through difficulties by sheer effort. Yet there comes a moment when human strength reaches its limit, when strategies fail, and when the weight becomes too heavy to carry alone. In that moment, surrender is not defeat. It is the invitation for divine power to move. When you surrender, you acknowledge that you cannot fix everything on your own and that you need the one who sees beyond your immediate struggle. This act of humility does not weaken you. It positions you for a breakthrough that only God can produce. Surrender is often misunderstood. Some see it as giving up or stepping back from the challenge, as though it means abandoning responsibility. But surrender in a spiritual sense is entirely different. It is not the abandonment of effort, but the alignment of effort with God's guidance. It is not stepping away from the battle, but stepping into it with God's strength rather than your own. It is laying down pride, fear, and self-reliance and saying, "I trust you more than I trust myself." This posture moves you from striving to cooperating with God's plan, and in that cooperation, breakthrough begins to unfold. The moment you surrender, you shift from your limited perspective to God's limitless vision. You may see only the problem before you, but God sees the solution behind it. You may see a closed door, but God sees a hallway of opportunities beyond it. You may see a dead end, but God sees the road that will open once you stop trying to force your way through. Breakthrough does not come from pressing harder in your own strength, but from releasing control and allowing God to take the lead. When he leads, obstacles that once seemed immovable begin to shift, not because of your effort, but because of his power. Surrender also frees the heart from burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. Fear, anxiety, shame, and guilt lose their grip when you place them in God's hands. These internal struggles can block progress and overshadow hope, making breakthrough feel impossible. When you hold onto these burdens, they consume mental and emotional energy, leaving little room for clarity or peace. But when you surrender them to God, you create space for Him to work within you. Breakthrough often begins internally before it becomes visible externally. The peace that comes through surrender gives strength to face circumstances with a renewed mind and a quiet confidence that God is in control. Another aspect of surrender is obedience. Breakthrough frequently requires steps of faith that may not make logical sense at first. God may prompt you to forgive someone who hurt you deeply. He may lead you to let go of something you have held on to for years. He may call you to step into an opportunity that feels intimidating. These steps often feel risky because they challenge comfort and familiarity. Yet surrender means trusting God enough to obey even when the path is unclear. When you obey, you activate the very shift that leads to breakthrough. Many people stand on the edge of transformation, but never experience it because they cling to what God is asking them to release. Surrender unlocks what resistance keeps closed. Surrender also breaks the cycle of self-reliance that often leads to frustration. When you try to carry the burden alone, you eventually wear yourself down. You may feel spiritually dry, emotionally exhausted, or physically drained. This exhaustion is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are trying to do God's job in your own strength.